Hello, wonderful viewers. Good day and welcome to Kofi Info. Today's video, I'm reacting to the NATO command, whereby the military commanders, the generals, were being questioned by a committee, a selected committee, about the Russian-Ukraine war. I just took an excerpt of that video. The remarks, the recommendations, and the answers they gave to that committee really makes me believe that the European society, the European political class, and the American political class, to be precise, have, have really lost touch with reality. Not to waste much of your time, listen to what they said, and I'll come in with my remarks. Let's dive into the video.
In February of 22, we would not have dreamed of such a loss from Russia of tanks, would we?
We would not have. I did not anticipate the war to go this long, and I did not anticipate Ukraine to be able to destroy so much of Russia's warfighting capability.
I hope I didn't break your train of thought, so continue.
You notice the question Mr. Wicker asked, and the answer the general gave was in total contrast. It seems he did not really understand the question Mr. Wicker asked, or he deliberately gave that deceiving or deluded answer.
Continue.
No, so as we watch the Russians, we see that their level of skill in some technical areas is very high and is evolving during the course of the war, but it's mainly isolated in specific pockets. It does not appear to be generalizable across the force, and overall the quality of their force, especially their ground force, has been decreasing throughout the conflict. On the Ukrainian side, we see sort of the opposite. We see a military that started pretty much from an almost cold start. We had been helping them before the war, but not at the scale we began to after the war, and they've evolved and developed very, very quickly. So we've learned a lot about institutional adaptation from watching both sides as well.
When you listen to these answers, and you are someone who hates Russia, you are someone who is being brain-feed by this Western media. You think everything he says here is true, but nothing he says here is true. We must remember that Russia is not fighting Ukraine. Are you surprised? Listen to the answer. Russia is fighting NATO and America in Ukraine. Left with Ukraine alone, this operation would have been over within a year, maximum a year. But we should all understand that America is sending weapons to Ukraine. NATO is sending weapons to Ukraine. America and NATO and some other countries are sending money to Ukraine to support the Ukrainians. So although Russia is fighting in Ukraine, Russia is not fighting just Ukraine. I can say Russia is fighting the whole European Union and the Americans. That is the reality on the ground. But it's just that it is the Ukrainian men who are being killed. It's like fighting your enemy in another man's house, whereby you provide all the logistics, but you don't suffer any real consequences.
We or our NATO allies had to face Russia ourselves in a conflict because of what we learned would we be exponentially better off today because of the lessons we've learned in the last 2.5 years?
Oh, yes, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Adolf, is it this professor always says they are living in denial. They are living in utter denial. How can you say, oh yes? America invaded Vietnam. At that time, Vietnam was just a third world country, a poor country. And with their terrain, their environment, and with all the technical know-how of the Americans, for your information, they were defeated in Vietnam. America invaded Iraq. They said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which was not true. They invaded Iraq, and mere farmers, mere insurgents who just trained within 2, 3 weeks, 4 months were able to tackle them. America did not gain anything from the war in Iraq. In fact, they lost much. You can say maybe they had oil and other things, fine. But they lost a lot of their equipment and a lot of their men. They went to Afghanistan after Iraq. And if you remember, within the era of Joe Biden, they ran. They did not just move out of Afghanistan, they ran out of Afghanistan. And you think America will be able to fight the Russians? Back then, I think Napoleon invaded Russia and learned a terrible lesson. Hitler invaded Russia and learned a terrible lesson. You wanted to test the waters with Ukraine so that you will be able to know whether you can invade Russia or not. You tested the waters with all the money you have, with all the weapons you have, and Russia has proven to you that it is not just a dead snake, it is a living lion. You can't just come close to its doors, do whatever you want, and go scot-free. From what I know and from the experiences I have heard from other military men, United States going into war with Russia will be the biggest. In fact, it can even be the last mistake they ever do. I'm not here to support any violence, but United States to go into a physical war with Russia, that will be the most dangerous thing they will ever do.
Say a word or two in half a minute about the Russian economy.
So the Russian economy has been both bolstered and distorted by this war. Specifically, the Russian government has had to turbocharge their defense sector. And in so doing, they have created a very strong inflationary pressures throughout the economy, but especially in the civil sector. They've responded to that with high interest rates to hold inflation down. The central banker, Elvira Nabiullina, has the overnight rate, the prime rate is over 21% right now. That is choking off the viability of the civil economy. So one has a huge oversized defense sector, but an anemic civil sector. And that defense sector, as you know, Chairman, is not a productive center, not a productive economy for the nation. It's productive for the fighting of the war, but beyond that, it has pretty much swamped things out. It appears that it will be very difficult to unwind such an imbalance, and we'll need to consider that as we go forward.
Thank you, sir. We'll continue.
I sometimes get worried when the United States thinks they understand everybody. They understand what is happening. They seem to understand what is happening in every nation, but not in their own nation. They came out to say that the Ukrainian war will deplete the resources of Russia. The Ukrainian war, with a number of sanctions, which the last time I checked were about in their thousands, will make Russia crumble. Russia will financially beg. Russia will financially starve. Russia won't be able to pay its workers. Russia won't be able to pay its military. We will cut the Nord Stream pipeline. Russia will fail. Russia will fail. Russia will fail. And the reality is, Russia is winning. Russia is winning. Russia is winning. This has led me to understand that sanctions only works when you have incompetent leaders who can think. When you have leaders like Putin, who is a master thinker. He is calm, but he seems to know, he seems to understand every move NATO and the Americans make. He may appear to be losing, but from nowhere, he comes up with a strategy that overturns the table. The guy has been around for a very long time. He understands what he's doing. So my advice to America is to focus on its economy, focus on how you can make life better for your citizens, and stop wasting money and resources on countries you don't even understand, corrupt nations. I will end my video here. If you like the video, let me know your thoughts on what I just said. Here is Kofi Info. Bye-bye.